David Kelley, President and CEO of Chakana Copper. We just released the latest information on our Soledad project. We're very excited about the results, high grade plus kilogram silver in the La Joya prospect. We've honed in and defined two very discrete porphyry targets that we think are driving everything that we see in the mega gold project, the mega gold target area, and more importantly, we've had a breakthrough in the geological understanding of what's really controlling mineralization in the district. And I'm here to talk to you about that today, Matt.
Okay, I thought I was going to talk about silver, but I heard the word breakthrough. So what do you mean by that?
You know, we've been working so hard on Soledad really since 2017. We started in the north, some really nice high-grade breccias. We moved further south, more high-grade breccias. We kept seeing these intrusions that were earlier than the breccias, not causing the mineralization, but related to the same mineral system. They were early intrusions that really set the stage for the mineralization that came in after that. And we kept moving to the south and moving to the south. We did a deal with Barrick in 2018 to give us really double the size of the project going to the south. And when we went to the south, we found more breccias. We found this high sulfidation epithermal area that we call La Joya. And that's where we just, in this news release, put out, plus kilogram silver. Right near surface, right? I think the intercept was 58 meters down hole. So, I mean, very shallow, very high grade mineralization. It's got a footprint of about 700 meters. And we had very few meters. We try to be very conservative with our funds and being very, exact with how we're deploying that capital in this drilling program. So we didn't have a lot of meters to work with, but we've confirmed high grade, near surface, big footprint. That's got to, have a lot more work done to it. And putting all of this together, one of the things we learned in this drill program is that the magnetic anomalies that we had documented are related to this precursor intrusion, right? And we had various ideas about whether or not that was the case, or whether or not the magnetic was related to quartz magnetite veining. In some cases it is. But the picture that's emerged from this, the confirmation that's come out of this drilling is that we have this large precursor intrusion. It's on the order of 1 million years older than the mineralization that came in. But the important thing is that intrusion came in, it crystallized, it solidified, and then the mineralization has come up around the periphery, the margin of that precursor intrusion. And, we have a map in the news release that shows the high-grade breccias, many of which are part of the initial resource, and how they line up right on the edges of this precursor intrusion. It also includes breccias we have not drilled at all, or just very, very, one or two scout holes. So I'm talking about the western breccias on the western side and the Compañero breccias. Compañero breccias are what many people feel are the best breccias in the entire district. We've done all the breccias. It's a cluster of breccias very closely located. We call it a complex because there's multiple breccias in the small area. Very high grade gold. We have channel samples with 14.4 grams gold in a channel sample on top of the breccia pipe. And at the base of that breccia pipe, it's stained with copper oxide. So we know that those are more of the same mineralized high-grade breccias at surface. All the breccias we've drilled so far are vertically extensive, right? They go at depth. All the resource breccias we have so far are open at depth. So we're excited about the breccia potential. We're super excited about the La Joya high sulfidation precious metal system, right? That's a silver rich, which potentially could become gold rich at depth, and that needs a lot more work. But I think for me, geologically, seeing how the mega gold target area is starting to break down into what's important and what's not important is the really exciting breakthrough. That, for me, is the breakthrough. This precursor intrusion is controlling where the later mineralizing intrusion is coming in. And what you can see on this diagram that's on the screen is that those red shapes on the right side of the precursor intrusion are two pyrite shells. Pyrite shells are a part of the porphyry deposit model. If you look at any of the basic summary models about what a porphyry copper deposit is, it's basically a giant pyrite deposit, which is uneconomic, that has a core of economic mineralization that's either copper gold or copper molybdenum, or in more rare cases, copper, gold, and molybdenum. And we have copper, gold, and molybdenum mineralization here. We actually think that we've got one of these porphyry systems that fits in the middle of all three of those metals. But those pyrite shells are telling us where the system is sitting. And there's two of them. There's one on the northeast and there's one on the southwest. And it's separated by a satellite precursor intrusion. We drilled that. Okay, we know that that's a pre-mineral intrusion. It's heavily altered. There's strong geochemistry in gold. I think we had a 2-meter intercept of 11 grams gold, and in another hole we had 1.5 meters of 1.8 grams gold and 0.35 copper. I mean, that's in an operating mine that would be considered ore grade, right? We just need the tons to go with it. But we think that that's leaking from depth, right? Those are strongly mineralized fluids are coming from somewhere, and we think they're coming from at depth in beneath these pyrite shells. And when you start looking at greater detail, and I can move to the second diagram, or the last diagram that was in the news release, what you see is that the pyrite shells shown in red in this diagram are underlain by these conductivity zones, right? So the strong chargeability, which is reflecting strong concentration of pyrite, gives way to low chargeability, but a very conductive rock. And that's a classic porphyry signature is what we see. So, our drill holes were in and around the right place, but oftentimes, as we know in scout drilling programs, you don't bang right into the middle of the core of the system in your first drilling. You have to work your way into it, and you do that with good geology and applying all the technology you can. And we've applied the hyperspectral core scanning, which has helped a lot. There's a whole story there that needs to come out in a more technical forum. But there's some really interesting things going on. I'm super excited. I'm sorry I went on too long, Matt, but this is some good stuff going on.
You super excited geologist. I need you to strip that back for the audience here, and clearly not going to be as technical as you. I'll put it in simple terms. You put out this release, and you found some really good grades in terms of the silver component, and yes, you've got gold in there as well. But it seems quite far. It seems like 2.5 kilometers away from these, pyrite shells, for instance, which you're excited. Well, you've explained in simple terms. Can you just say, look, we are looking for what? This is what we found, and perhaps this is how you can quite simply interpret the La Joya numbers, and how that informs what you're going to do next.
Yeah. So La Joya, what that's telling us is La Joya is a distal epithermal system, lower temperature. Epithermal just means lower temperature. Porphyries are high temperature. Epithermal veins, high sulfidation epithermal deposits are distal to the heat source, where the temperatures have started to drop, and they have a different style of alteration. They have different metals that are enriched there. We generally don't see copper at La Joya. It's a precious metals system, right? But it's part of the overall zoning in a porphyry district, and this is so well established globally, right? When you have a porphyry, one of the ways of finding porphyry deposits is to go find all the gold deposits and find out what type of gold deposits they are, and then start vectoring and start looking for the higher temperature zones of alteration. We often get base metal, lead, zinc, silver deposits surrounding porphyry deposits. Well, that's what the entire district to the east of us is, right? It's 150 square kilometer lead, zinc, silver district, historic district that's still operating today. Where did those fluids come from? Well, we think that they came from this, right? We think that the Soledad project, the consolidated Soledad project, which is over 4,000 hectares, is capturing the mineral potential associated with the copper, gold, porphyry system that's formed the breccia pipes over the top, that's formed the high sulfidation epithermal system at La Joya, and has formed the lead, zinc, silver mineralization in veins and mantos off to the east. And it's a very, very typical zonation that you see in porphyry district. It lines up, it's forming, all the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together now.
Explain what that means, because that's the simple language which I think most of the audience can start to lean in on, right? So it is you're trying to find stuff underground. It's a big play. There's multiple targets. There's multiple metals in the ground there. Quite simply, people are trying to work out what are you going to focus on. When you're a company of your size, you've got to be really very careful, as you say, with what you spend your money on. Drilling is expensive. They just need one good news story. What are you going to do?
I guess, the analogy with the puzzle is absolutely perfect, right? You take a box, you dump it out on the table, you flip all the pieces over, and you've got 500 pieces that fit together, right? But you pick up the first piece and you're going, okay, well, this is easy. This is an edge piece. I'm going to put this in this pile over here. But then you start gathering. You take all your pieces and you put all the red pieces over here and the green pieces over here and the pieces that have the tree in it over here, and you start segregating. And that's what you're doing in exploration. You're going out at a very early stage and you're walking the ground. You're looking at the rocks. What are the rocks? Are they altered? Are they garden variety granites that'll never have anything, of any potential other than maybe, decorative garden rock, but if you start taking samples, you assay those samples, you look at those samples under a microscope, you start forming the thesis that, okay, this is unusual, right? And ore deposits are nothing more than freak aberrations of Mother Earth, right? They're extremely rare. Any deposit, if you look at all the mines in the world and you sum up the surface area that they occupy versus the rest, we know that ore deposits are extremely rare occurrences, right? And you've got to find deposits that are in places where they can be mined. It's no use finding a porphyry deposit at 3 kilometers depth if it could never be mined. So you're taking all these bits of information, and if it's encouraging, then you start applying more types of surveys, like geophysical surveys, remote sensing alteration studies, that type of thing. And eventually you get to the point where you start doing some drilling. Well, as we know, most of the prospects in the world from an exploration history standpoint are done at that point. That's when the majority of the prospects get killed, because we call it the truth machine, right? It's when all your ideas are being tested, and normally that's when you walk away and say, well, okay, live and learn. Let's get better at this. But there are a smaller population that's, okay, well, that was encouraging. We got some good grades. In our case, we were drilling the breccia pipes, which are absolutely spectacular deposits. And we always had this feeling that we know that tourmaline breccia pipes are related to intrusive magmatic hydrothermal intrusion-driven systems. They're related to intrusions, and oftentimes those intrusions can be mineralized porphyries. And we absolutely believe that this district is driven by a porphyry. It has way too many of the puzzle pieces are fitting together to say this is a classic zone porphyry district, right? And so that's where we're at. We're trying to find out where all the puzzle pieces fit, and sorting out this major control with this precursor intrusion, and how all of the deposits are now lining up along the edge. It's telling us where to go, Matt. It's saying stay within this margin buffer zone around this precursor intrusion. Focus there. We've eliminated a huge amount of ground by doing this, and now we know where to focus. So we're very excited about the technical achievements in this last round of drilling.
Okay. So it's telling you where to go. So What are you going to do next?
Well, we need to do more drilling. I mean, obviously, La Joya needs more drilling, right? That's a new discovery in the making. Nice 700-meter long strike length, high grades. We believe that when you have a feeder structure that's carrying high grades like that, the real potential is for those fluids to have intercepted a receptive permeable host at depth. And we know that the stratigraphy we're working in supports that thesis, because that's what they're mining over at the Hercules mine. It's a manto mineral system, which means that the fluids move laterally along favorable beds. So that process is already demonstrated in the district. So La Jolla's got, great potential, needs more work, needs more drilling. Compañero breccias need to be drilled, right? And we're super excited about that. The Estremadura breccia pipe, which was a new discovery we announced at the beginning of this drill program, that needs to be drilled out. That's going to add to the resources. I think the Compañero breccias are going to add to the resources. I think the other breccias that haven't been, there's still 54 breccia targets that haven't been drilled yet, including many of those are in the Compañero complex area. So we still have lots of targets to test on the high grade breccia side. And then, we're focusing in on the next stage for Mega Gold, and it's really getting into the heart of these two discrete targets. And it becomes a question. And we just had a review session with Goldfields, and I asked the guys, so what would you guys do next? Would you do more geophysics? Would you, because most of our geophysics is pretty shallow seeking, right? It was designed that way because we wanted to start with, shallow information and then eventually go deeper, when we knew where to do that. And, do you do more geophysics or do you drill? And, the answer that came from Goldfields, and of course their geophysicist wasn't on the call at this time, the geologists want to drill. They're like, no, you've got this defined well enough, you should go after drilling. I still would like to hear what Andrew Foley has to say, whether or not he would do some more geophysics. But that's coming from Goldfields, right? That's coming from the guys that have seen the information that came out in this news release, and they're saying do more drilling, right? So I think that's a real positive endorsement of the project.
Right. Okay. So that's what you'll do next. You got to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
At these levels, if I'm coming as a new investor, I'm super happy.
Yeah.
But for existing shareholders, it's like, I guess they know they know the animal. This is a case, you're an exploration company. You raise money, you drill, you make discoveries. That's what the expectation is from you. And and you're looking at, I guess we've talked about it a lot. We've talked about Estremadura. We're talking about breccia pipes. We're talking about porphyry targets. We're talking about high sulfide epithermal, etc. There's a lot going on here for a small company. Strategically, as a company, as the CEO of that company, do you feel that you can afford to, literally and figuratively, spread your money that far, or do you need some good news now and say, look, it's a district, it's big, there's lots of mineralization in the ground, there's lots of metal in the ground of high value, high grade, etc. But for market's sake, we're going to have to do something kind of cute now, which is kind of goes against the grain for a pure play, geologist, and say, give me some good grades, give me some good numbers. You've got a snifter of that with some high grade silver, which is the thing I wanted to talk to you about in this conversation at the beginning. Actually, over 1,000 grams per ton silver. That is exciting. What you guys have done previously in terms of the some of the gold grades over to the west. When you look at Compañero, for instance, those are the things that get people excited. Can you do more of that?
Well, we can. I mean, that's the beauty of this project, right? There's nothing wrong with a smaller tonnage, high grade resource, especially in a country like Peru. Peru has some of the scrappiest miners in the world, right? They're very, very good at high grade underground mines, veins, mantos, you name it, skarns. I mean, they can do it all. It's a great, great mining country from that aspect. And I've always felt that, hey, if our consolation prize here is 20 or 30 million tons or 50 million tons of high grade copper, gold, silver mineralization, we've achieved a great, we've made a great achievement for the company, for our investors, for the people of Peru, right? But when you can't ignore the big scale opportunity here, right? That's why Goldfields came in. That's why many of our notable investors have come in and taken a hard look at this and said, I like this. I mean, our success rate when we take people to the field and show them the project is very, very high. People come out because it's you can only understand so much by looking at diagrams and hearing me speak and things like that. When you see the rocks and you see the potential, you get excited about this. Now, I think what you're really getting at with your original question, though, is how long is it going to take us to put this 500-piece puzzle together, right? And that's the difficult part, right? If you can throw a 500-piece puzzle out on the table, flip all the pieces over, organize them, and put it together in one day, that's pretty impressive, right? Doesn't happen very often. Sometimes it takes 2 days. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. We're dealing with the market. The market's been up. The market's been down. It's been very, very challenging and very difficult. And I'm a big shareholder of the company too. I'm completely underwater. There's no question about that. But I try to separate that from my primary job and my primary role as the CEO of the company is to get us to a discovery. And I know it's been painful. I know we've done dilutive financing, but I also know that what we're trying to achieve, we're looking for $1 trillion asset, right? If we're successful, the type of wealth and the type of financial benefit that a new discovery of the kind of scale that we're going after is enormous, right? And so that's my goal. I'm trying not to get. I realize that dilution is not a good thing, but at the end of the day, if we make a tier 1 discovery, it's going to take care of all of that, right? I honestly believe that that'll make everybody whole. You look at what Snowline Gold is doing now, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Those guys are they finally, they've got the breakthrough. They keep finding more things. I mean, it's such a great story and it's such a great thing to remember of why we're doing this, right? We know it's the odds are against us, but it's opportunities like this where success comes from. And if I felt that it was over and we were done and these results are not taking us in the right direction, I'd be the first one to raise my hand and say, this is not good. Let's go focus on the breccias. Let's just worry about La Joya. But I'm still super excited about the whole district play here and the tier 1 potential.
Okay, so what next? What are you looking forward to next from you?
So we're still working on putting everything together. I would like to have a technical. I want to roll this the technical part of Mega Gold out. We're working hard on the permitting. We'll get that permitted soon, and that will give us the opportunity to drill at Compañero. So I'd like to come back in with the drill program to do some more drilling at La Joya, more drilling at original drilling at Compañero, and some porphyry, test the porphyry concept at Mega Gold. We're still working internally on understanding the geometallurgy. We still have a geometallurgical study that's going on in the background for the existing resource, and that's an important piece of work that's going to help us with, where those breccias are ultimately going to, the path they're ultimately going to take. We believe that what we've already found is eminently mineable. We'd like to get it to 10 million tons. That's kind of a target we've set for ourselves. We're at 6.7. But I think Compañero and Estremadura alone will get us to that 10 million tons. And then, we've still got a lot of targets to test in the broader Soledad project. So it's more drilling. And, we know that drilling is expensive. We've done a great job of getting a lot of value out of every dollar that we've raised. And, we're working with a drill contractor that's been very, very good in terms of, keeping costs under control, because they know that the important thing here is drilling, right? When we drill, we generally have good success, and that good success leads to more opportunities to drill in the future. So that's what's next for us.
Okay, David, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.